You're still searching for that breakthrough that always feels just out of reach. What is your true life path, and how do you finally find it? Welcome to Say It Anyway, the podcast where we help you unlock the breakthrough you've been waiting for so your true life path can finally come to life. Each week, we share powerful practical tools you can use right now to start transforming your life. You'll hear raw, honest conversations with people from all walks of life, people who found their way forward and are here to share mindsets, strategies, and wisdom that help them get there. I'm James Ferrigno. I've helped people reconnect with their power for years. I'll guide you beyond surface level solutions into a deeper way of seeing the world, one rooted in connection, courage, and open-hearted dedication. This is your space to think differently, live boldly, and finally do the thing you were meant to do. Let's get started.
James Ferrigno, and this is Say It Anyway. And our guest today is Brian Bajan. He's an energetic embodiment coach. Welcome, Brian.
Awesome. Good to be here. And good to see you again. I know it's been a while since we really hung out. So
Yeah.
but,
Been quite a while. Time.
yeah, a few years. Mm-hmm. It was fast. That's for sure.
Yeah, not slowly.
I, I literally feel like I've lived so many lifetimes, and I think people that, and you could tell me if this is true, people that do a lot of work, growing themselves, evolving themselves, it really does feel like you live many lifetimes. Because I look back at people who don't do a lot of work, who almost seem to try to stay the same
Mm-hmm.
and almost living the same life, sitting in the same chair, watching the same TV, say, hanging out in the same house. And I'm like, wow, I don't think I could do that. It's not my nature.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I could, in some ways, maybe they're more enlightened than me. Maybe they either could be repressing growth or they could be fully accepting life the way it is and saying, I don't need to change to be happy. So, and that's something we're ultimately all working. Sounds weird, I think.
Yeah, you never know. And every life, every person is all just a piece of it, right? So whatever you're doing, you kinda can't do the wrong thing. Some things
No.
are less pleasant, but
Yeah, the fastest growth I get is when I fully go into the now and work on accepting reality the way it is
Mhm.
without needing to change, without needing more money, more success, better relationship, some part of my body to heal. And then that's when magic happens. And it's painful. It's a painful process when you're in resistance to feeling something in the now. But then when you get comfortable with it, it heals or it changes, not because you want it to, but because you don't need it to. And that's the magic of really good acceptance, really good letting go, really good the work Lester taught, that everybody really teaches.
Yeah.
And we got so many distractions today. Cell phone, anything you could think of is on tap or distraction. Even virtual reality these days. That it's more needed now than ever.
Yeah, simply just accepting what's happening is, yeah, a little more complex than it sounds like it is. Yeah.
Isn't it?
It's that razor's edge thing of trying to accept. You want less effort. The less effort,
You,
the
you
better.
just nailed it. Everybody tries to accept the now the way it is, but in the trying, they're not really good.
Mm-hmm.
So we were accepting the now the way it is, or you're trying to accept the now the way it is so you can get somewhere in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it's,
Millions.
wow, because I did that so much. And I was like, oh my God, I can see that I'm only trying to accept the now the way it is so I can get what I want later. So that's not really accepting the now the way it is. Okay, how do I fix that?
Yeah.
And how do I get to the point where I'm truly not focused on the future?
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this fear inside of me that I would forget what I truly want in the future if I let it go. But the funny part was that's not what happens at all. When you fully let it go, all the attachment, all the aversion, you're free of that future addiction. What's inside of you that's supposed to be born naturally grows out of you. All that part of you that was wanting to bring this into reality drops into choice and it comes into reality, not because you need it anymore, but you're done with it. But then it shows up and you're like, oh, here's this thing I've been working for forever. And it's literally in my lap now, just showing up. It's wild to watch. So,
Yeah, yeah, that is crazy. What I used to do, or maybe I still do it, is when I was trying to let go, trying to not effort, you know, working hard, not to work hard, you know, and I would imagine the worst possible thing that could ever happen to me, right? And well, if I let go, then that could happen. Yeah, so that's always that would just be
yeah.
stuck there, and so letting it be okay, you know.
Yeah.
If it
And
happens,
sometimes
oh
that,
well, you know, that's it.
well, if you let go and go up the emotional scale, if you know David Hawkins' emotional scale, Lester Levinson's emotional scale. David Hawkins is an expansion of Lester Levinson's, right?
Yeah.
And if you go up the scale, yeah, amazing things are going to happen. Stuff's going to show right up. Now, hopefully, you will go up the scale. But sometimes when you first let go of all that wanting, that chasing you down the scale to feel the thing you've been running from,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to go, and that everything kind of falls apart for a bit. That's scary. But then suddenly, when that's done falling apart and you're over it, you go right back up, and then everything gets better again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the dark, the soul. That's the you know, that part of you that is in a depression. I'm not talking about a clinical, like I'm going to hurt myself depression. I'm talking about your body needs to go inside for a bit into this depressed state. So like taking a nap at night so I can come back re-energized. And getting out of the, and the reason I say it literally the way I just said it is to get out of the resistance to that breath, that inward outward energy, that nighttime daytime polarity, until the polarity kind of dissolves. Because when you move beyond it, it's all just part of the whole, you know, and it all flows. I know this sounds kind of esoteric, but it the funny part is all that used to sound super esoteric to me. Now it makes sense. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, that makes so much more sense than chasing something. Pretty darn cool, actually. I personally believe that life can be amazing, but we have to do our work to get to have that amazing life. It's not like I go study a simple book like The Secret and then I make an amazing life, unless you're already there. Like, in The Secret just amplifies that you're already there. But for a lot of us, like me, and I had to do a lot of deep internal work, I carried ancestral trauma that went back generations of depression, hurt, anger, disease. And I had to go through all that, you know, and I'm still going through it. I mean, I'm not done. I'm just awake to it now. And more laughing at it than I ever have in my life and not taking it so personal. But that's part of the game, you know, that's part of the game. It's like, if everything just worked perfectly, then we'd be bored, you know, or we'd be, okay, now what? You know, so, but one of my tricks in all of that is I've really learned, not even a trick, it's just the way reality works. As I worked at falling in love with the mundane, because that's most of our life anyways, doing the laundry, doing the dishes, you know, taking a shower, going to the bathroom. It's all, we're taking a walk, you know. If you can fall in love and see the beauty in the mundane, life gets so much easier. It's so much more beautiful. But that also, find that also scares people when I talk to clients about it, because if I fall in love with the mundane, I won't get my goal. I won't go after it anymore. I'll just sit there. And that's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
Mm. But it does. I see where that perspective comes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I can't like my job, my current job too much, or I won't quit it and go get a better one. It's not true at all. You love your current job and appreciate it for what it is, the natural expression of the next level will show up. A tree doesn't stop growing because it loves being a sapling. You know, it just keeps growing. The more it just lets itself be, the more it grows into the next thing it's supposed to be. And potentiality takes over. You know, your potential comes out. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. I've been thinking of that as when you're someplace you don't want to be, that's kind of one of the jobs of being alive, is to be okay with things. So life gives you all these things you're not okay with, and it's going to stay there until you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Then once you're okay with it, it'll send you something new that you're not okay with.
Exactly. I remember I used to hate the whole idea of ice baths and cold showers, right? Oh, dear God, I'll never be okay with that. I'll never be okay with that. And then I went to LA and I was doing a workshop in LA. I wasn't living there. And I rented this apartment, the house, apartment kind of pseudo situation. Well, the water heater wasn't working. There was only cold water. It wasn't ice cold, but it was only cold water. I was like, yeah. But I got a shower every day. I'm teaching an event. I could move to a new place. I said, nah, I'm already set up. I'm just going to shower here.
Yeah.
In the cold. Do it quick. It's like, little here, little there, dip my foot in. I noticed about 3 or 4 days in, because the event I was in was pretty stressful. So there was a lot of pushing on my body, stepping into tension. I was pushing. And the cold showers started to feel absolutely amazing. Not because I chose to get in those cold showers, because I chose to surrender to them. Once I was like, okay, I'm going to have to take a week of cold showers. I'll just surrender. And then suddenly it got easier and easier. And the more it got easier, the more I liked them. Matter of fact, I came back one day and I was a little tension in the body from the day's work. And I'm like, I can't wait to take a cold shower. When I heard my brain say that, like my thoughts said that, I was like, that's crazy. And then I jumped in the cold shower and ran the cold water over my body, and my whole body relaxed. And I was like, oh my God. And then I went outside, got in the convertible. You remember Anthony, right? He had his convertible Miata, and Anthony Rooks. We drove down the street at night with the top down. And for the first time in my life, the temperature was at, I would have been really cold. I was enjoying it. I was like, oh my God, this feels amazing. That's when I realized cold is just resistance. The vocal cold, I mean, within human parameters, right? But a lot of our suffering in the cold is actually resistance. And when I let go of the resistance, the aversion, the cold was actually pleasurable. It was wild. We spend so much of our life, this is where so much illness comes from. And I want everybody to hear this, is bracing, resisting. Buddha says the source of all suffering is attachment. But another part of attachment that's not talked about enough is resistance, is aversion. Aversion is a reverse attachment. It's still an attachment, but it's a reverse attachment. You're trying to push it away. And in the resistance to that attachment, that constant resistance, we burn the body out. We fatigue the body. We pump tons of cortisol. We tighten the muscles. We armor the body. We tighten the fascial system. And all our hormones out of balance. And that does so much destruction to our sleep, to our melatonin production at night. Doesn't get, nothing gets done right. And that's what being in the now does. That's what surrendering to this moment right here, right now does. And saying, I can accept reality just the way it is. I don't need it to change, as it starts to get rid of all that resistance. So the body can then open, relax, let everything flow through it, and begin to truly heal itself. And I found that to be more healing. I did supplements and all that stuff kind of helped, and diet. But I'll tell you, still to this day, the number one thing that's healed my body is letting go of resistance and diving deeper into accepting the now. And every time I go back to, I'm going to try this new supplement, and it might do something. But when I go back to maybe I do the supplement in conjunction with letting go of resistance, or I just do it. That's when I still get the biggest bang for my buck. Aversion, resistance, obsessive attachment, same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, I've often thought I'm doing this exercise and stretching and qigong and diet and supplements and all this stuff. And it's like, it's all just to kind of tread water and make up for some of the resistance I have. Yeah, why don't you tell me how you got started? Where did it all begin? How did you start kind of looking at helping people from a different perspective, something intentional?
My fascination with personal growth started at a very young age, at like 9 years old. I'd watched martial arts movies and I was fascinated with how they had all this mental power. And I was more fascinated with the meditation, the mind work than I was the martial arts itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I took martial arts classes at a young age, just Taekwondo, and we only meditated for like a minute, like a little, here's your meditation done, move on. I always wanted to do more of that. I didn't understand why we didn't do more of that. I see it, the power came from that in the movies. I always saw that.
Yeah.
Left it and I just kind of did my own thing for years. And then I got into personal growth when I got older. Um, I realized I was depressed when I was a young adult. I realized my life was going to go nowhere. I realized I, I just didn't like life. And if I didn't change things, I was going to end up broke, depressed, alone my whole life. Because that's kind of, I was in a complete avoidance strategy, super shy, and going inward. So that began my journey. And I bought my first personal growth book, a book called Feeling Good by Burns. Now, some people have read it. And it just began me down the journey. You know, it said, and one of the things I remember from that book was if you're not willing to go out and take yourself out to dinner, dress up to a nice dinner, dressed up by yourself, treat yourself to special stuff, then why is anybody else going to want to go out with you? You know, if you don't think you're good enough company to be dressed up for, to spend some money on, you need somebody else to do it. That says a lot about you. So I remember going out to my first dinner alone, my first movie alone. I'm learning to enjoy life. And then I just kept reading. I read everything. I wasn't reading spirituality this time. I was reading personal growth, but it eventually, with time, it grew into dating coaching and then spirituality and consciousness. And then eventually I started becoming a hypnotherapist, and the hypnotherapist kind of came in the middle. And then I ended up not practicing hypnotherapy, but then years later, that's really where my career began.
Hmm.
It was many years after, I think it was about 10 years after I did the hypnotherapy school, I needed a job. And I prayed. I literally got on my knees and prayed because I was so desperate for a job and needed money, and I was broke, and I look and I was stressed, and this job popped up on the website my mind said, go here and look on this job board, look at this spot. And I did. And there was a job for hypnotherapist. And I was like, what the, like,
Wow.
therapists work for themselves. Like, and I haven't practiced in 10 years, and oh my God. And so I called them and they hired me on the spot. And I was like, what? Like, they don't even, like, we just need you. You got a great diploma. We need somebody bad. And it was a weight loss center
Mm-hmm.
and a smoking center. And then I didn't take the job at first. Tried to go, like, I was scared to take the job. I was terrified of it and I didn't know why.
Oh.
So then I worked in the film industry a little bit longer, lost all my money. And the guy didn't pay me anything. And I ended up coming back a month later with my tail between my legs, and they hired me again right away. I thought they wouldn't. And it was a low paying $15 an hour, 15 hours a week job. And I was like, but this is all I got. I got to eat. I got to pay some bills. And after about 2 weeks of doing that job and hating it more than any job I'd ever had, that hate, like visceral hate chemo, something amazing happened. I began to love it more than any other job. It was on a Wednesday. I went home sick to my stomach from doing the work. And I woke up the next day loving the job more than any other job I've ever had.
Mm.
And I went to work saying, is this what it's like to actually love your work? This is the first time I've ever had this experience. Worked at that center for a year, almost bought the whole center, ended up taking over the sales and made tons of money in sales for the company. That's why I had more money now. So I couldn't have seen that coming without it. And I made way more money in sales than I did being a hypnotherapist, but I wouldn't stop practicing because I loved it. All the clients were wanting to work with me because they were changing so much. And I didn't know excuse me. I was just like, wow, it's just natural for me. And at that time, I didn't understand the concept of zone of genius. But since then, I've learned that we all have, whoever's listening to this, you have something you're born to give the world. Not everything, a certain thing. And when you tap into that thing, you'll never work again a day in your life as long as you don't have an imposter syndrome. And that's what I had. I had an imposter syndrome. I went to the job feeling not good enough to do the thing that I was born to do. I mean, nobody wants to fail at the thing they're most born to do. the thing that they most love. But when we go to, so here I am studying personal growth, studying the mind, studying spirituality in my personal life, but she asked me to do it for a living. I'm like, freaking out. Like, I can't let somebody see me do this. Oh my God. And when that broke, and I gave myself permission to be good at the thing I was born to do and put it out to the world and let the world see it, experience it, my whole life changed. And I began to just crave it. And I wanted to do it all the time. So the RAS, the Reticular Activating System, turns on and makes you better and better and better at it all the time. It sees solutions and possibilities, and it's working overtime, because that's what happens when you love what you're doing. You can't stop doing it. You get realization, understanding, deep insight. And again, everybody on this call that's listening to this has that inside of them somewhere. It could be music, it could be poetry, it could be dance, it could be business, it could be politics, it could be, it could be a million different things. But we all have a gift. And when I finally surrendered to that, that's when my life took off. And then I ended up quitting that center, and because it just wasn't quite working the way I wanted it, I was just having trouble buying the business, and went out on my own. Got my first client, a young kid that wanted to learn to date better, that was in high school, and his mom brought him to me. He was referred to me by good old Steve Pickus, if you know who he is, from the dating community.
Mm-hmm.
And because Steve wouldn't work with anybody under 18. And by the time he graduated high school, I realized I really had a gift, because by the time he graduated high school, he was the most popular kid in his high school. Went from the shyest to the most popular. And I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. I dug it. So that was my life. And I realized, in some way, shape, or form, most of my career, I was battling that part of me that didn't believe in myself, letting it go as I was developing more and more of my skill set. And then I met my mentor, who completely shifted me on every level. That's where everything I do today was born out of that. I spent 4 years with him, and a whole new reality was born inside of me, because he showed me stuff way beyond the hypnosis, way beyond basic mindset work. He showed me that I was living still, even after all that work, so much in my head that I was just creating tons of problems for my body. And it was time to get out of my head. And 4 years with him got all that mechanism started. And I've never stopped since. I just keep growing everything I'm doing, and seeing what the next journey holds for me. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Yeah, that's fantastic. One question is, you've mentioned the RAS a few times. Maybe for the audience, you can.
Well, RAS is the scientific explanation for, you could say, law of attraction if you want. Law of vibration is another term for law of attraction. The idea that like attracts like, right? If you're a bodybuilder, you're going to probably hang out with bodybuilders. I mean, if you love Marvel movies and you love them so much, you go to the conventions, more and more people are going to be attracted to that energy. So whatever energy you love, but just by thinking about it, talking about it, being around it, you're going to attract more of it. Where the RAS comes in is the RAS says, whatever you focus on, let's say I want to buy a new car, and I think about buying a Honda Civic, let's say. And maybe I never noticed all the Honda Civic. Let's even get more exotic. Some obscure Raptor pickup truck or something. It's not really that exotic, but you get the idea. And then you never noticed them on the road before, but now you see them everywhere. And so what it comes down to is these vehicles were always on the road. You just didn't see them. Your mind sorts out the bulk, like you're seeing it 10 million bits of data per second, and your mind is sorting 99% of that out. You're seeing about 10 bits of data per second. Huge discrepancy of information coming into your nervous system. So what are you going to see consciously? You're going to see the stuff consciously that's going to come to the surface from that 10 million bits of data per second that most matches your reality of the way you believe the world works, the way you believe what you see. This is why people argue for their reality all the time. I've seen it. I experienced it. I lived it. I've been through it. You don't understand. I've been through this. I know what I'm talking about. Well, of course they have. If they believed it, they saw it, they amplified it, they recreated it because they've got 10 million bits of data per second to choose from to create that reality over and over and over and over again until the day they die and prove that it exists. This is why guys that are into red pill think that all women want to steal their money because they sort energetically, vibrationally for those women and they see it everywhere. They're not going to see the general women. They're going to have all kinds of stories as why that woman's just fooling you. That woman's, then they'll constantly look away from her and point to the one that's the actual digger.
Mm-hmm.
And the opposite is true too. A guy that loves women and thinks women are amazing are going to be well taken care of by women. Women are going to give to him, be appreciative because he's going to sort for that. And this is true everywhere. And how you prove this is simple. Like the simple idea, it's not really proving it, but you can feel it. If I took your consciousness out of your body, imagine we had a magic machine, and we dropped in, let's say, Richard Branson's consciousness in your body, and his RAS was now taking over, and he had to use your reality. His RAS is going to sort for what? Abundance, success, problems, and how to solve problems, to create money for people, success for people. And he's going to go to work to do that. And how long would it take him to take your current reality and make millions of dollars way beyond what you've ever made? And it wouldn't take long. They've proven it by, taking all the money away from billionaires and putting them I can't remember his name, but they put him in that mobile home with a cheap car and $700 in his pocket. And he had to learn to make, and he had 3 or 4 months to make several $1 million. And they do it. Most of the time they do it. So your RAS, his RAS in your body would create a whole different reality because you have now hear this, everybody, you have all of these opportunities within your RAS. But if your mind won't sort for those opportunities, they don't come to the surface. Your ability to turn you into a millionaire, if you could see everything and then choose that pathway, you'd make millions in no time. Who knows, billions? I don't know how far it could go, but you can see that's how it works. So just imagine Richard Branson taking over your life. What would happen in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, a year? With his mindset and his motivation. That's why changing your beliefs is so important. And that's why action is so important. But if the action is not backed by some level of certainty that you're either going to change or that you could do it or that you believe in it, if you're just pushing against, this won't work, this super negative beliefs, and you're not dealing with that, those actions are going to backfire. Even Lester Levinson took a lot of action. People go, no, he sat there and just released for 3 months straight and he was enlightened. No, read his life story. He released for about a month under the threat of death. He had 2 weeks to live.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mental pressure right there. And he got out books, that's action. He studied how the mind worked a little more, that's action. Then he sat there and did a self-inquiry, that's action, to try to figure this process out. Then he released nonstop, 24 hours a day, right into the now, into the tension, to the point where his body got healthier and healthier. But then what did he do? As soon as his body was healthy enough, he got up out of the chair and he went out in the streets of New York and looked for things to trigger him. He didn't sit in the chair all the time. He looked to be triggered. Argument, a car crash, people honking, anything that triggered him, he released it back into the now and let go of all attachment and aversion until he could have love for that thing. The car honk, people arguing, whatever it was. And then through that process of constantly stepping into tension and releasing what is till the tension resolved into flow, he became happier and happier. And he just kept taking it as far as he could take it. He didn't want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how his whole life changed. His body healed. He became super wealthy. All his businesses started working because he could see everything now, because the mind wasn't racing and fighting, and he was feeling everything with the whole body, the embodiment. That's where the power's at. And I feel like when you look at somebody like Richard Branson, this is what they're doing. They're so calm and still under pressure and proactive. They see and they're expecting a solution to show up for everything because that's their belief. The RS is just feeding them solution after solution because your gut brain is crunching all the data all the time. And if you're not in touch with your gut brain, you're out of alignment, it's going to crunch. Like back when I was bad with women, I every woman to reject me. So my RAS would sort for why she's rejecting me before she even rejects me. RAS would sort for how I'm going to suffer. You see what I mean? It would sort for the reality that I was worried about and then give me feedback on that reality. Then I go create it and make it happen because I was responding to what it was sorting for. So now we got a scientific reason we could use for law of attraction. Now, whether you, I don't worry too much about, science is another whole thing with me. It's like, well, that's just a theory. That's not science. Well, how does something become science? It starts with a theory, starts with a hypothesis. Then you build on that. And then we should have tons of hypotheses. We should have tons of theories and we should be playing with them and experimenting with them so we can get to, but instead it's like, it doesn't count unless well, how does it get to be science? If we don't, if we write everything off, it's a theory. It has anecdotal evidence. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I've done really well in life by sorting for high amounts of anecdotal evidence and throwing it a lot. I'll go say, oh, this guy's got tons of anecdotal evidence, even though it's still anecdotal. It's so much that I'm gonna, and I see the results in life. I'm gonna go apply that principle, and sure enough, my life grows again. So then years later, that anecdotal evidence becomes science, and somebody goes, "I told you so," or other people, and I'm like, "You could have saw it coming years ago." Now, if it's just one spewing an idea, sure, that you could call that true. Okay, that could just be a coincidence. You see what I mean?
Yeah, there's a bit of a double standard there with science, which is amazing and really valuable, but it's what's currently accepted is not everything that's out there, obviously. And
Close.
a lot of revered science is still theory.
And wrong. A lot of it's wrong.
Theory of evolution, the theory of relativity. I mean, they're all theories, So
Gravity's a theory. I'm not saying gravity's not real, but gravity's a theory.
Yeah.
We can, but if I drop something off this balcony, it'll fall. Okay, great. That doesn't make gravity less of a theory. It's still a theory. There's other arguments that gravity could be. Whatever. I know, but I do know if I look and drop stuff off the balcony, I know how it works, basically, whether it's a theory or not. I can rely on that for now until we come up with something new and we realize, okay, now we've figured out gravity is actually this, and this is how we subvert gravity and things start floating up. And, it's, and then a lot of science is also backed by corporations. It has ulterior motives. It's affected by the observer. And it gets proven wrong, right? How much science has people gone out and said, this is science? They go to do it and then it's proven wrong later. And it was really actually bad for you or it would completely ass backwards, So I'm careful with science, just like I'm careful with anecdote. I'm looking for lots of success. Like I see these people, this guy's healthy, he's strong. He's got lots of people following him. They're healthy and strong. Lester Levinson, lots of people that were open-hearted and awake for following him. That's why I picked him to look at what he's doing over so many other spiritual teachers that were like, I had this one spiritual teacher I knew when I was young. And most of his students were not awake. They were suffering. And then I realized later he was a cult. He had a cult going. And I could see it in the student, but I never took hand with him. I was like, this guy is dangerous. And so I learned a lot watching him. But then I looked at Lester's, and a lot of Lester's people had open hearts and they were really growing. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Is that science? No. But I've seen the results in my own life, my clients' life, other people's lives. So take it for what it is.
Yeah, I've done similar things with different groups, and there's a lot of cults or quasi cults out there. Certainly people who are not really imparting helpful things to their followers. So, but some are, and you can see it's the people that are kind, that are open-hearted. You're like, okay, this person's doing the right thing, whatever it is.
Well, once you understand how embodiment works and how the heart works and how the gut works, you begin to understand how people work. You can see the domino effect of that in life. You can see that the resonance is a real thing. The resonance of my heart being open and listening to you and letting you in has an effect on you. Maybe in the beginning, it's like, oh, this guy's interesting. But 10 minutes later, I really like this guy. 10, 20 minutes later, hey, I want to hang out with this guy a lot more. That's a real thing. Women, men, doesn't matter. And that has to do with the energy that's flowing through your heart. And so when you start to see that in people, like when I look at people, I ask myself, how much in the now are they? How present are they? How reactive are they? How much cognitive dissonance do they have when somebody challenges their theories and their principles or their ideas? Do they freak out? Do they get angry? All that tells me a lot about how much I should trust their work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love people that are open to being challenged, but their hearts don't close when it happens. That tells me a lot about how empowered they really are. And the one caveat to that is sociopaths are good at faking an open. That's why you gotta really learn to feel an open heart. Sociopaths, they're very powerful, very potent, very convincing. But if you understand the energetics and the subcommunication, they're very cold, calculated, and that can fool a lot of people. But when you see past the sociopath, and you really start seeing the people with the open hearts, even the open stomachs, that's a whole nother thing nobody talks about. Open hips, open the whole body, the whole center pillars open. You can really begin understand that person because they're letting you in. They're letting you see their hearts. You can learn, hey, what does this heart feel like? That may sound weird and esoteric to people, but it's a literal thing that happens. It's not metaphorical. And then energetically, it's a literal thing. It's not like yeah. But it's an energy exchange, just like any energy, like electricity. And then the same thing with the stomach. The stomach is a digestion machine, not just for food, but for energy, for anger, for frustration, for resistant emotions. And when it's operating properly, a lot of stomach issues go away and you begin to be able to digest the tension of the world better, handle the tension of the world better. And then the hips are creative energy of passion. The heart is compassion, but it can also be sad. There's nothing wrong with that if you own it. So there's so much. The body is a thinking machine. The whole body thinks. And when you're just thinking up here, your world gets really small and really a lot of suffering.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I love it too. So that's the way I do it for a living.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of focus I know on masculinity. Do you want to speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, I love masculinity. Let's argue this. Let's play with this on concept of toxic masculinity and non-toxic. It's getting old, it's disappearing from nomenclature. But I can't say the word right now. It's disappearing from
Nomenclature.
Nomenclature. There we go. And the question is there toxic masculinity? I mean, well, first off, by law of polarity, if you have toxic masculinity, you have to have toxic femininity. But nobody says that. Right? So they want to just it's just masculinity. It's bad. Truth is I'm looking at this city right now. I'm in Medellin and I'm looking out here. There's buildings and structures and things everywhere. Without masculinity, none of that would exist. We would be living in chaos. Masculinity saves, protects, hunts, gets food, goes out and keeps the electrical system grid growing, builds buildings, puts out fires. And you could argue, but masculinity also creates war. And I'm like, well, is that masculinity or is that dysfunction? Maybe true masculinity is protective, healing, building, growing, directing energy. And anything that's not that is just dysfunction. Because women, same thing. Like they're the flow, they're the energy, they're the light, they're the beauty, they're the inspiring energy, the feminine, let's say. But if we would say there's toxic femininity, that's manipulation, that's control, that's the ability to use plausible deniability to manipulate a man, control him, steal his money, and then go, I don't know what he's talking about, and play it super subtle. That's feminine, which goes on all the time too. So does that mean feminine is bad? Or does that mean that that's somebody that's dysfunction? Right? And so when we look at this whole idea of masculinity, first thing that a lot of men today need to do women too, but let's go with men. They need to get respect for masculinity. They need to see it in the world and see how powerful it is, how beautiful it is, and how there are a lot of women out there, if there are a sorts for it, that love masculinity and respect it. But if you're sorting for all the women and you're watching shows like whatever that are just constantly attacking, going back and forth between men and women and masculine or whoever these people are, the red pill people, you're not going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
All the couples that are in great relationships, 51% of people are healthy attached. Now, there's good relationships out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's 51% that are healthy attached, are they going on these red pill shows and whatever shows? Are they just enjoying their lives together?
Mm-hmm.
Are they just having great lives, the man and the woman? I know I can think of off the top of my head 3 great relationships between men and women that have been spectacular that I've watched in my life. Just off the top of my head, I was thinking about them today. All 3 of them have this powerful, loving dynamic between the masculine and feminine. They work at growing it, expanding it, getting rid of the resentment. And then you look out in the world at couples that have been together 50, 60 years that are still happy, and they exist. I found them. I found a couple that had been married. They were in a magazine article, 81 years.
Mm-hmm.
He was 101 and she was 99. And their kids said they're still in love today. That's why they've been alive so long. They just love each other. They hold each other. They cuddle all the time. She's blind now, so he walks her around, puts her on his arm, takes care of her. This is what I'm talking about. Is this healthy masculinity does that. It guides, it leads. Now, the second step is once you start to earn this respect for your masculinity, you start to see the beauty it puts in the world and how it creates space for the feminine to fill it, because the feminine amplifies the space you give it. And the next step is learning to embody it in your physical body. And most guys are in their feminine today. They're leaning into the front of their body. That's the feeling too much. They don't know how to sit in the masculine, in the backs of the legs, all the protective parts of the body are masculine. You know, the feeling, the sensitive parts are feminine. This is really feeling sensitive. This is where here, protective, best of the legs, back of the legs. The back is the frame, so the front can be open and feel. But if all our consciousness is pushed to the front of our body, then we're going to become needy. We're going to have no grounding, no structure to protect us, no structure to contain us, and we're going to become needy and worried and reactive to the world. But when you learn to re-embody, like just sit in your back, sit in the back of your legs, feel the ground and the support of the ground beneath you, feel the backs of your arms, feel the back of your neck and head, and just kind of sit in these masculine parts, and then I'll set the feminine parts free, give them space to express themselves within your masculine instead of trying to use the feminine as the masculine. The whole way you feel in your body changes. Now, some of you might be able to do this right now, just rest in your masculine and feel, wow, I feel so much more relaxed. Others, it's going to take practice. If you got the message like I did as a child, that masculinity was bad, was to be manipulated and controlled, like I was taught by the women I was raised by, then sure enough, I don't want to be like those men. I want to go into my feminine because I don't want to be a bad masculine man. That's where I was. So when I first went into my masculine, my whole body fought me. It was like, no, this is bad. This is wrong. I felt the self in the masculine, self-hate for being male, the apology for being male with the world. And I had to process that apology. I had to process that self-hate. And I had to learn to develop respect for the masculine. That's why I ended up in the career I was in as a dating coach. But I wasn't a dating coach that taught all these tricks and techniques. I was the dating coach that taught masculine embodiment, relaxing in your body, creating space for the feminine to come fill it so you could be this open where they could relax into you and absorb them in, and then they flow through you. This polarity, right? To me, that's what masculine's about. Masculine, there's all these YouTube videos about it. Look at the masculine in the world, the guys on the oil rigs and guys out, through create on power lines and stuff, jobs that women just don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and Jim, don't get me wrong, it's that women have other roles in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was that Survivor episode years ago. I could probably find it, where they pitted the men against the women
Mm-hmm.
in surviving. and they put the women on one beach and the men on another beach. The women fell apart, bickering, fighting, no structure, no control. The men immediately built hierarchies and built. They were just leaps and bounds ahead of the women because that's their environment, dealing with the wild and creating a container within the wild to survive. Well, they realized to make the episode work, they had to take half the women and put them with the men, and half the men and put them with the other women. So otherwise, it was dumb. So to the show to work, it didn't. And they did that, and now the men created the container for the women to flow in, right? And now the women could give their gifts. I don't remember how much the women gave their gifts in that episode, because I have noticed from culture to culture, depending on how the women grew up and were raised, whether how much they want to provide value and give gifts to the world versus there's a lot of women in the world today that want to take from it, give me first, and then I'll give me first. And I think it's just even for men to women or women to men, give me money first and I'll go hang out with you. Go give me this first and I'll go. And I see this, buy my nails, do this. And those are women that have lost touch with what it is to be feminine, which is giving and nurturing from the energetic perspective. If a woman gives to me, I'll give right away. Like, this is another thing I realized one day. It just hit me one day. If I go out on a date and I become giving immediately, and I just, I'm going to take you on a date. I'm going to buy you dinner. I'm going to do this. And then I watch how she responds to that giving. If she's a gold digger, her claws are going to come out so fast. She's going to see this guy's a sucker. Or she's going to think that, or she's going to think I can get more out of this guy. And as soon as I do that, within a date, 2 dates, I can see her going for it. Set boundaries, shut it off, let her go. Now I'm not wasting time. But some women don't. Some women want to be respectful. They don't want to spend too much of your money. They want to care. They want to give in return right away. They want to start nurturing you right away. And boom, now you got something beautiful. And it doesn't, if I hold back for weeks, I'm going to give a little bit, you give a little bit, and months. And the next thing you know, we're kind of tight, but we're also doing this battle. Like, yeah. And I think, so just being open with people and letting people show you who they are is really powerful. Saves so much time and money, I think, in the long run. You might spend a little up front, but you'll see how the return happens, right? And it's really cool. This is why I had certain friends, like when I was in Montana, I had my beautiful home. They give them the keys to the house and say, use it when I'm gone. I trusted them. I wanted to be giving. The house was meant to be used. It was beautiful. I made it for a reason, right? And they never took such good care of the house. If they didn't, I would have taken the keys away. But that's life. House, it's meant to be used. They're meant to have barbecues. They're meant to play. They were playing board games. They were doing all these things because I was on the road a lot. People remember that stuff, and then they want to be giving in return when the time is right, when you need something. So that was a long diatribe on my part, but you get the idea. Yeah.
So that was fantastic. You got a lot in there.
So that's the end of our part 1 talk with Brian Bajan, and join us next week for part 2. And we'll be talking about some pretty interesting things. We'll be talking about AI, be talking about being present, about flow state. There's some really great stuff in there. So come back and join us next week and check that out. That should be pretty cool. James Ferrigno here. And it would be great if you guys could subscribe, like, follow whatever platform you're seeing this on, because that really helps me be able to continue the podcast and be able to get the good guests. And, the more follows there are, the more is going on here, the easier it is for me to get good guests and really provide you with the help that you might need. And so if you can do that, that would really help us out. Thanks a lot.